right into the introit. We'll do the lightest gleaming next. Good morning. A warm welcome to all of you on this beautiful sunny winter day. It is the last Sunday in Epiphany, the season of light, but I hope that isn't speaking to the weather. I hope that our season of light is continuing to grow in these parts. My name is Reverend Beth, and I'm minister amongst you. My pronouns are she and her, and just a very warm welcome to all of you who've made the effort to come out this day to attend to your own spiritual journey, to be in the company of one another and in the company of the holiness that surrounds us in all of our living. Everything that you need to participate this day is found on the screen behind me. If it says to stand and you feel like sitting, that's okay. Either way around, just make yourselves at home and try not to get too caught up in the details, but instead just open to however the Spirit is moving you on this day. I know it's these lands that we worship on are the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people, and we keep that call to be people of relationship and community and reconciliation ever before us, and that responsibility to be good stewards of this land with our Indigenous siblings. I'm going to sort of invite us to center in worship this day with a bit of a prayer, more of a poem really. And I know that it's kind of one of the traditions around here that sometimes we'll read secular readings, which are often at least as spiritual ones. So take this moment to kind of focus in as the candle is lit. I think Dalton might be coming to help with that. And just let these words flow over you. They're particularly appropriate today on this day of what's called transfiguration, of noticing the wonder and the mystery in the everyday. And so this is a poem by Mary Oliver entitled The Pawns. Every year, the lilies are so perfect, I can hardly believe their lapped light crowding the black midsummer pond. Nobody could count all of them. The muskrats swimming among the pads and the grasses can reach out their muscular arms and touch only so many. They are that rife and wild. But what in the world is perfect? I bend closer and see how this one is clearly lopsided, and that one wears an orange blight, and this one is a glossy cheek, half nibbled away. And that one is slumped, a slumped purse full of its own unstoppable decay. What I want in my life is to be willing to be dazzled, to cast aside the weight of facts, and maybe even to float a little above this difficult world. I want to believe I am looking into the white fire of a great mystery. I want to believe that the imperfections are nothing, that the light is everything, that it is more than the sum of each flawed blossom rising and fading. And I do. Let's gather in worship and join our voices in song together.
Good morning. My name is James Robertson and my pronouns are he and him. A warm welcome to each and every one this morning, especially those who are visiting. We're glad that you've joined us, and we invite you as you leave to sign our guest book at the back of the sanctuary. Each week we gather, we share a sign of Christ's peace. This gesture is a way of indicating to one another that we have let go of grudges, that we wish to be at peace within this community, that we are committed to reconciliation in all we do. Join me now in sharing a sign of peace with one another. Peace be with you. Happy birthday wishes to Kathy Evans, celebrating tomorrow, and Martina Summers, celebrating today. We send prayers and good wishes to Carol Dobson following her knee replacement surgery late last week. I want to express gratitude to all who are contributing to today's service. A warm welcome to Gary Williams, leading us at the piano today. This month we are collecting canned tuna for Brunswick Street Mission. You can bring donations in any Sunday in February. A reminder to consider signing up to participate in our Walk By Ash Wednesday event this week. We are looking for people to take 1-hour shifts, training provided. There's a sign-up sheet in the Tobin Street lobby near the coffee sign-up sheet. Finally, I encourage all to stay following the service today, when we will be gifted with a Chinese New Year presentation. Before the performance, there will be a pizza lunch. If you're able to make a small donation to help cover the cost, it will be gladly received. If you want to attend and can't contribute, you are still most welcome. Now I invite any kids present to please come forward and join Reverend Beth for story.
All right. Come on up, kids. Hey, good to see you, Dalton. Yeah, so, and good to see you, Daisy. And I think it's wonderful that you're wearing Christmas pants today, because what's happening this week, everybody? What? Ash Wednesday. Now listen, I was going to say it's not a trick question. I actually wanted the other one. Like, I didn't want the church answer. What else is happening on Wednesday? Valentine's Day, yes. So let's start with that. Look at Ash Wednesday in a minute. I've actually kind of matched the two together, and I'll show you what I've done. But Valentine's, anything's happened at school for that? Yes, Dalton?
I've been doing this for 3 years now, so we have...
For the last 3 years, Dalton has been, I can't even write it down.
Everyone in the class would take a turn when we would all give people stuff to show, like, an example of...
You know what? Hey, Dalton, come up here, because you're just saying it so good. They need to hear you, so just come up here and say it. I don't need to repeat it. Just tell them. Tell them what you've done in the past 3 years in your class. No, you don't. No, they also question it.
So, as I was saying, I've been doing this for the last 3 years. I have been, everyone in the class would give people stuff that symbolize, like to show how much they love them. And I like doing that.
Beautiful. Thank you. You know what you just did? Yeah, good job. What you just did is called a testimony, like you told a story from your heart. Beautiful. And so everyone else, that's how you do it. Not scary to get up here and tell a little story. I'd love to have others do it from time to time.
Definitely not you.
Not for you anyway. So come on down, thank you for that. And yes, obviously Valentine's Day, like we tell everyone how much we love them. And at school we practice, right? No, you can come because I've got something to give you in a minute. We practice telling, like you can't just give a card to one person in the class, right? It has to be to everyone. So it's a good practice of who are the people that might not be my friends, might not know so well, might have made me kind of frustrated at recess the other day, and we try to show love. So yes, the other thing that's happening on Wednesday, which I think is super fun, is Ash Wednesday, is falling on Valentine's Day. Ash Wednesday, yeah, what is that? That's what I'm going to tell you. So it's the beginning of the season of Lent. And do you know what we say to people on Ash Wednesday? We mark them on their forehead with a cross made out of ashes. Although this year, I'm going to give people the choice to have a heart on their forehead or a cross, whatever they want. And we say to them, you are dust, and to dust you return. Does that sound like Valentine's?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't sound like Valentine's. That was really nice of you to say it sounds like. But if you used to call someone dust, you wouldn't normally say that on Valentine's.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I know. It sounds a little rude, but you know what it is? It's a reminder that people live and people die. And some people say, well, we shouldn't tell children that people die. But you've seen the news, right? I know, but reincarnation is, I don't have time to get into that right now. But yeah, and we talk about resurrection on Easter, which is a whole other thing. So there's lots of mystery and wonder about life and death, for sure. So the point on Ash Wednesday is a reminder that even though life is hard sometimes, even though we see terrible things on the news, the most powerful thing in the world is love. So it's kind of perfect that on Ash Wednesday it's Valentine's. So do you know what I came up with? Well, love can be perfect. When love is unconditional.
When love is like actual love?
Yeah, but of course we call a lot of things love that aren't perfect. is really good.
The stuff that you don't like, but you like.
You know what's this is a good lesson for the rest of us. I know we're taking a long time, but this is important. There's this word in the Bible called agape love. It's a Greek word that they translate just into love, but it means acting in ways that are loving, even if you don't feel it in your heart. But that's actually what Jesus asks us to do, to behave in ways that are kind and loving. And you don't just say you love someone, but you have to behave in ways that are kind and thoughtful.
Yeah, like
No hitting. Yep. No pushing, punching, kicking, and then people can say,
that's definitely not respectful.
yep, calling people names not respectful. And you know when the grown-ups need to remember that? When we're driving our cars.
What?
Yeah. Okay, I've got something for you. These are Valentine cards. If you have time, if you go out for Sunday school, you can maybe do some of this and make them for some people in church. I'm not going to tell them what they all say, but they're actually say Valentine cards. Well, they're going to take them home then. Then you'll take them home and do them another time. Alrighty? So they're kind of a mishmash of Ash Wednesday and Valentine's, those cards. Okay, the moral of the story is ask children for wisdom and you will get it. And actually the lesson for all of us is maybe talk to children a little more often because they are so much more in touch with the mystical and spiritual side of life. You guys have a lot to teach us, and I'm so glad to hear. And children believe in God better than grown-ups. Well, I'm actually kind of going to talk about that in the sermon. Pay attention.
Okay.
All right. All right. You've had like a full service already, but we're going to sing a song and carry on. Okay. Great. Okay, was that one new to you or just to me? New. See, all right, so we're going to spring new songs on you, and then we'll give them to you again in a few weeks so you can actually start to learn them. But it's a good chance to just practice here. So this is our moment of offering, and as I say each week, we don't pass the plates around these days, but we want to keep before us the idea that offering our gifts is part of what church feeds us to do. And so a reminder, of course, that you can give financially if you are able through our website or by putting an envelope in the plates, and there's tax receipts and all of that. And a reminder too that Sunday is, what we come here for is really to be filled up for the rest of the week. And I want to urge us to think about how we show up in our daily lives as our offering to the world. And so perhaps to keep an attention in our hearts and our ears while we're at worship for what's the call or the invitation for me this week to take away from what I've received on Sunday and to turn it into an offering in the world. And honestly, I would say already I'm taking Dalton's advice to not say mean words, and I already indicated the place where I do that more than any other. So that's my challenge this week is when I'm driving my car and other people are doing dumb things. No, when I'm driving my car and I choose to not tap into my patience and my generosity, what am I sharing with the world? And is that an offering that I want to be part of my legacy? And honestly, I think we'd all be surprised that those very small actions have this sort of ripple effect. I'm not going to get into how physics works, but trust me, the energy you give to the world goes out there and has an impact way further than any of us are conscious of on a daily basis. And so I offer a word of gratitude for the gifts that you bring, and a word of praise to a God who continually tells us to pick ourselves up and keep offering our best to the world. I'm going to invite you to, we're going to sing a little song. You can stand or sit. We've been doing this all through Epiphany. This is the last week we'll do it as Lent starts next Sunday, so sing it with all your heart, a little song of thanks.
Please join your hearts together as I offer these words of prayer. God of thin places, dazzled by the glorious light of your life-changing call, we stand vulnerable and exposed. We long to hold the glory in our palms. We clench our fists in an illusion of control. We harbor secret fears that there is not enough glory to go around. We resist the return journey down the mountain, from the glory to the ordinary. In the thick of the muck and routine of the everyday, call us again to remember. Moments of glory are not a distant memory, but the light that sees us through the relentless ordinary. May we claim the divine glory working through us, transformed by a love so great. Amen. This is the Sunday called the Transfiguration, a word that we use all the time. One way of describing what it might be: a complete change of form or appearance into a more beautiful or spiritual state. Everything in the passage of Scripture we are about to hear leads to an expression of a beautiful spiritual presence. The culmination is in the moment when God speaks from a cloud, naming Jesus and saying, "Listen to him." This is a compact passage of Scripture that offers a visionary moment captured in the tradition of the disciples' encounters with Jesus. A reading from the Gospel according to Mark. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice. "This is my Son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what this rising from the dead could mean. Offered as wisdom for the journey.
May we walk in its light. There's a rather famous Zen Buddhist proverb. It goes like this: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You've heard it, right? So I just think it's beautiful. It's this caution about never thinking you're holier than anyone else. That no matter how spiritually evolved, awakened, how faithful you are, at the end of the day, every last one of us, in one form or another, has to wash the dishes and fold the laundry, right? And what I like about this idea of what it is to be enlightened is it kind of just breaks it down and makes it accessible for the rest of us. You see, this story that's before us today, I'm really cautious to not tear it apart into its pieces, because this is a mystical story. This is a story about people encountering the very presence of holiness in their lives. And you can't take that apart without losing some of the wonder of it. So I want to kind of demystify mysticism for us a little bit and tell you that I firmly believe every last one of us is a mystic. Every one of us. Some of us, children in particular, some of us are better at noticing and naming those spiritual experiences, but we all are witness to them, encounter them regularly. And in fact, and this one makes me really happy, the stories I hear about mystical experiences, the majority don't happen when you're sitting cross-legged on a yoga mat. Most of them happen in ordinary life. Think about it. Think about a sunset. If you have ever been in the presence of a glorious sunset and there's that moment of complete awe and wonder. Or maybe holding a new baby and just feeling that tangible presence of love. Maybe an encounter with a stranger or someone who you love where there is this brief moment when you are like in sync, that everything might be spinning around you, but you have this very real sense that things are okay. Have you had those experiences? Now and then they're kind of fleeting. You kind of can't hold on to them. I remember probably my first mystical experience memory goes back to when I was 8 years old, when I was more attuned to these things. When I was 8, both of my grandfathers died that year. The first one who died was the grandfather who I knew and I loved, and when I would visit, he'd chase me with his shaving cream, and we just had such joyful memories. But the other grandfather who died, because of estrangement in the family, I didn't ever remember meeting him. There were pictures that said I did, but I had no relationship with him. And so I remember this moment. I'm standing at the wake by the body. Feels like I'm the only one kind of peering into the casket. And I hear my name called. And I turn around because, even at 8, I knew that someone must have been calling my name. And there was nobody calling my name. And I knew in that moment, oh, it must be my grandfather. And later when I reflected on it, I thought, well, maybe that was the voice of God. I'm not sure it matters who I attributed the voice to. What I most remember about that experience was this sense that as I was standing there, not so much in grief, because I didn't know him enough to grieve for him, but I had a sense of loss of potential, of, why didn't I know you? Why didn't you care about me? But when I heard my voice, I was kind of resting in this presence of, actually the love that holds you is big enough to hold all of that, the disappointments and the regrets and the loss of potential. It was like just this beautiful sense of being held. And I trust that others have experienced that can be a rather universal, fleeting moment. Well, in the Bible, when Peter has, and the other disciples have this experience that many have named mystical, when Jesus becomes kind of translucent and light, and these dead, mighty figures from their scriptural past show up, Peter doesn't sort of sit there and rest in, isn't this amazing? What Peter says, it says there he was afraid, and so were the others. So what he says is, let's build some tents. As if to say, let's put something permanent here so I never forget where this amazing thing happened, so I can hold on to it. Now, we could go back in the Hebrew scriptures, and actually I can enlighten you as to why it may have been that Peter thought we should build some tents. But you can look that up or ask me later. Because here's the thing, this week, when I heard that Peter wanted to build some tents, I could not help but thinking about the eviction notices on the tents in the Grand Parade. And I couldn't help but thinking about what tents have become in our lives. And how I trust that you, with me, think, really, people shouldn't live in tents. We should be able to do better than that as society. That that there is something so temporary about a tent. And I'm thinking about those eviction notices, and I hear that officials are saying, we have shelters, we have hotels, we will work with you. Being indoors is better than being in a tent. And I can't argue that, but we know too from how these stories play out that if the person living in the tent says, you know what, your other options are also temporary and they're not working for me, like I'm fearful of what will happen in these tent communities when people say, no, thank you, I don't want a mildly better indoor solution. So I'm thinking of that, and I don't have any answers for that. I just want us to keep in mind that tents are temporary, and they should be. And it seems so juxtaposed to most of our experiences with tents. I don't know about you, but I have good childhood memories with tents. I mean, sometimes we would pack a tent in the trunk because we would do last-minute road trips, and then we wouldn't find a motel on the side of the road, so we'd pitch the tent on the side of the road, which wasn't really a good memory. But more often than not, people have these pictures of campgrounds, and you can put up with an outhouse for a few days because it's just a few days. So I'm thinking of those sort of tent memories. And then I have another very personal tent memory that actually touches on the mystical for me. About nearly a decade ago, I paid money to go to the wilderness where I didn't eat food, had no communication with the outside world, and lived in a tent for 48 hours. I paid money to do that. We gathered about a dozen of us for the days before and prepared for our wilderness journey. And here's the thing, you don't go into the wilderness, like you don't pay money to go into the wilderness, unless you're kind of going through something, right? Unless you're having, working on something. And so I was there, pitching my tent, and I'm thinking, I can outsmart this whole wilderness thing. If it's too much for me out in the elements, I'm just going to lay in my tent. I'll just wait out the 48 hours in my tent. What I hadn't foreseen was that the beautiful spot overlooking this tremendous desert valley that I chose would contain like the biggest red anthill I had ever seen. And I also didn't foresee that the tent I borrowed from a dear friend had previously been erected on some outport in the wilds of the African continent where they had pokey bits coming through the earth, and there were tiny little holes in the bottom of my tent. Yeah. Ants, in case you didn't know, are awake from dawn till dusk, but they disappear at night. But all day long, didn't matter how much duct tape I put in the bottom of that tent, the ants were getting in. And so I had this idea that I could outsmart the wilderness, that I could take shelter, and my shelter let me down because of the ants. And I guess, you know, when I put all these tent stories together and Peter's idea of let's just build something kind of semi-permanent to hold on to the holy presence of God, I wonder if the moral of the story is don't get too comfortable in your tent. Don't get too comfortable with tents being permanent. Or maybe it's don't hunker down on your faith journey. Keep going. Because Peter has no sooner got the words out of his mouth, hey, Jesus, let's build some tents to remember this beautiful experience. Jesus is halfway down the mountain, getting on with it. And Peter and the disciples are left there, and the holy voice says, listen to him. Not build some tents, not hunker down, not grasp onto your moment of enlightenment, but get down the mountain and do the work. I wonder if, in a sense, churches long before you and I were here, if the church in her wisdom kind of doubled down on the tent and said, oh, we can outdo Peter. We don't need a tent. We will build beautiful sanctuaries. We will build the most spectacular architectural buildings with bell towers and steeples and gargoyles and gorgeous woodwork. But it's complicated, right? Because when you talk about a mystical experience people experience with the sunset, just as many people will say, Well, I experience that in the beauty of a church as well. Right? We experience the presence of the Holy One through beauty, but the caution is that we don't experience that beauty for the sake of itself. Even in this stunning building, the purpose is not to sit in the presence of the stunning building. If anything, the calling is to allow the beauty of this space, along with what happens here, to touch your soul and feed you and lead you down the stairs to listen to where Christ is calling you. Let me put it in sort of even, I don't know, just a different angle to come at the same thing. We bought our house here in Halifax, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago at the height of the market, sight unseen. And as soon as we purchased our house, we knew we wouldn't even be living in it for a year, I set about ordering the most beautiful, handmade, made in Nova Scotia, spalted maple dining room table. And you don't even need to know what spalted maple is, it just sounds gorgeous, and it is. So we have this beautiful dining room table made. It's really beautiful. And it's big, and it can easily fit like 8 people, but it can also fit 12 pretty nicely. And so many days, most days, we sit around this table and there's 4 of us around it. We still do that, everyone sits for supper at 6 o'clock thing together. And sometimes I'm sitting there at the table and I'm like, this is a beautiful table. You know, didn't cost me any more than it would have to go out and buy one made in China. Beautiful table. And then I step back and I remember, why did I want the table? Why was that the first thing that we invested in this home? Because we want people around the table. Because the encounters that happen around food and fellowship are some of the most rich environments for hearts to be changed, for eyes to be open, for the mystical of our Holy One to seep into our bodies and souls. The table itself might be pretty, really pretty. But the real beauty is what happens around it and how we enable that to happen. The irony is, you know, when you follow the light and you listen to Jesus, it doesn't make life easy. So Peter and the boys follow Jesus down the mountain. They are no sooner down there than they are called upon to perform their first exorcism, their first healing. And guess what? They totally fail. They are as filled up with the Spirit as they have ever been, and they fail at the healing. And all I can say is, there's something about perseverance and patience when it comes to a life of faith. It doesn't let us escape the world. It's more what gives us the essence to carry on with the hard work of life. Something I didn't mention about my tent and the ants. It was 3-4 years after the wilderness when I finally decide I'm going to Google what ants mean when you encounter them. Because I didn't want to know. Other people who went on that wilderness journey, they saw bears. Someone came face to face with a bear that means like power and strength. Another couple of people, they saw eagles, which means divinity. And I see red ants. Do you know what they mean? Patience and perseverance. I went to the wilderness for a high, holy mountaintop experience, and the message was, practice patience, practice perseverance. That is the calling of a life of faith. The invitation to us too, be fed in this beautiful space. Be fed around table. Be fed, go looking for every single place that your spirit can be lifted up, and don't expect you'll just find it in the expected places. Go to the grungy places. Go to the tent cities and meet the real people there. Walk down the street, at the grocery store, wherever. Be ready to encounter the holy, because you never know where the holy is going to show up. And if anything, if this community of believers is to carry on and deepen in our faith, it's absolutely going to mean that we're going to head out of here some days and fall on our face and get it all wrong. And the story of love that holds us is greater than any failure, It's greater than any self-judgment. It's greater than any story we can say about not good enough or God's not present. You are held in a love that is rich and deep and beautiful. May that empower you this day and always to follow the light and trust that you are a disciple of the source of life, and you will be fed and carried all through your living. May it be so. Amen. Pray with me. Oh God, we yearn from deep inside. We call to you. Many of us at this moment are walking through grief, uncertainty, challenge, healing, brokenness in relationship. And so too are some of us just bathed in light and relishing in possibilities and walking paths that might be unknown but feel hope-filled. We call to you, O God, whatever the road before us holds, and we seek to trust that we're not alone. Our hearts break for the pains of this world, for the people of the Gaza Strip, for the people in the tents in our city, for the leaders amongst us who are doing our very best. More than anything, oh God, may we see that the light that we long to share with others is radiating back at us through those we meet, through your beautiful creation, that love seeks to win, that love wants to be the foundation of our lives. May we lean into it. May we trust it. Oh God, hear our prayers. We offer all of these prayers in the name of one who taught us to pray together in these words along with silence. And so join me, will you, as we share together in the words that Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Let's join our voices again in song. warm invitation to stay with us for a pizza lunch and a beautiful Chinese New Year presentation if you're able. We go into this week daring to trust that we do not go alone, that the power of life and love abides not just in this space, but in our hearts and in the body of each and every person we meet. May you trust that your light is enough, share it with those you meet, and know that you go blessed and embraced by God, Creator, Redeemer, and Giver of life. Amen.